The ash clouds that veiled Earth's skies were a grim testament to the unprovoked attack. Cities that once teemed with life lay in smoldering ruins, their once proud skylines reduced to jagged silhouettes against an angry, red horizon. The alien invaders, known to humanity as the Vrax, a technologically advanced and ruthless species, had struck without warning, their motives inscrutable, their methods devastating. The attack had begun in the early hours of a serene spring morning, catching Earth's inhabitants unaware. Vraxian dreadnoughts emerged from slipspace portals, their sleek, obsidian hulls glinting ominously against the sunlight. Within minutes, major cities were under siege. Towering plasma cannons reduced skyscrapers to molten slag, while swarms of Vraxian drones filled the skies, their shrill, mechanical cries adding to the chaos. Families were torn apart in the chaos, their desperate cries drowned out by the relentless cacophony of destruction. Streets that had been bustling with morning routines became battlefields littered with debris and the wounded. For a time, it seemed humanity's days were numbered. The Vrax unleashed weapons that tore apart Earth's defenses, leaving nations scrambling to respond. Panic swept through the streets as military forces were overwhelmed. Yet amidst the despair, humanity's resilience, forged in millennia of conflict and struggle, burned brighter than ever. What the Vrax did not foresee was humanity's unyielding capacity for retaliation. It began with a message, broadcast across the remnants of Earth's global communication network. General Adrienne Malik, commander of the newly formed Coalition of Human Survival, appeared on every screen. Her face bore scars, both literal and figurative, and her eyes burned with determination. To all survivors, she began, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. We are not broken. We are not defeated. The Vrax have made one grave mistake. They underestimated us. They thought we would cower. Instead, we will rise. We will strike back. And we will show them what it means to provoke humanity. Her words galvanized the scattered remnants of Earth's population. Underground bunkers became bustling hubs of activity as engineers, scientists, and soldiers pooled their knowledge and resources. Ancient rivalries were set aside as nations united under a singular goal: survival and vengeance. Refugee camps transformed into centers of innovation and strategy. The spirit of humanity's indomitable will thrived, even in the bleakest of circumstances. The first act of retaliation came 6 months after the initial attack. A team of brilliant scientists, led by Dr. Lena Zhao, had reverse-engineered Vraxian technology. Working tirelessly in a clandestine lab beneath the Rocky Mountains, they created the Artemis Array, a weapon capable of harnessing the energy of a collapsing star. Mounted on Earth's last operational space station, the Artemis Array delivered a devastating blow to the Vrax mothership orbiting the planet, shattering it into fragments and sending the debris spiraling into the atmosphere. The fiery rain of debris became a grim beacon of hope for survivors, a testament to humanity's ability to fight back. The Vrax, now alerted to humanity's capacity for counterattack, responded with ferocity. Their forces descended in waves, targeting strategic locations. Battles raged across the globe, from the irradiated ruins of New York City to the dense jungles of the Amazon. Yet, for every city they attacked, humanity struck back harder. Guerrilla fighters sabotaged alien supply lines, ambushing convoys and seizing vital resources. Cyber warriors unleashed viruses that crippled Vraxian systems, sowing chaos among their ranks. Humanity had become the very embodiment of defiance. Across shattered cities, graffiti emblazoned with the words, "We endure," became a rallying cry for resistance fighters and civilians alike. The turning point came during the Battle of Titan's Gate. The Vrax had established a staging ground on Saturn's largest moon, using it as a launch point for their assaults. General Malik devised a daring plan: a full-scale assault on Titan's Gate, using every remaining resource Earth could muster. The operation was codenamed Eclipse, a nod to humanity's ability to rise from darkness. Thousands of fighters volunteered. Knowing the odds were slim, they piloted hastily constructed spacecraft, armed with a combination of human and Vraxian technology. Among them was Captain Elias Ward, a former astronaut turned resistance fighter. His ship, the Dauntless, became a symbol of humanity's resolve. Families and friends gathered for bittersweet farewells, aware that many of these brave souls would not return. The battle was chaos incarnate. Titan skies burned as human and Vraxian ships clashed in a deadly ballet of light and destruction. The initial wave of Earth's fleet engaged in harrowing dogfights. Captain Ward, at the helm of the Dauntless, led his squadron through a storm of enemy fire, weaving between laser blasts and missile trails. Explosions lit up the dark expanse, painting the moon's surface in flickering hues of red and gold. The Vraxian defenses were formidable. Their ships were sleek and agile, bristling with advanced weaponry. Human pilots had to rely on cunning and raw determination to outmaneuver their foes. Ward's voice crackled over the comms. "Stay tight. Stay focused. We've come too far to fall here." His squadron responded with a unified cry, diving headlong into the fray. Behind enemy lines, the unsung efforts of engineers and technicians ensured the fleet stayed operational. Their tireless work a crucial yet overlooked element of the battle. Midway through the battle, the Dauntless took a direct hit, its hull groaning under the strain. Sparks flew in the cockpit as Ward wrestled with the controls. "We're not done yet," he growled, rerouting power to the engines. The ship surged forward, narrowly avoiding a barrage of plasma fire. His crew worked frantically, patching systems and arming the payload. On the moon's surface, ground teams launched their assault on the Vrax command center. The fighting was brutal and relentless. Soldiers in exosuits clashed with towering Vraxian war mechs. The air was thick with the acrid smell of burning metal and the cries of battle. Humanity's forces pushed forward, inch by bloody inch, refusing to yield. In one corner of the battlefield, a young soldier named Rachel Vega carried a makeshift flag, a symbol of defiance. Her comrades rallied around her, their determination stealing with every step. The sight of the flag amidst the carnage became a moment of unity, a snapshot of humanity's spirit captured in the heart of war. Above, the Dauntless broke through the enemy's defensive line. "Target in sight," Ward announced, locking onto the Vrax command center. The ship's experimental warheads, crafted from Vraxian tech, glowed ominously as they were primed. "Fire!" he commanded, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. The warheads streaked toward their target, leaving trails of light in their wake. Time seemed to slow as they closed in, every second stretching into eternity. Just before impact, a Vraxian battleship veered into the warhead's path, detonating in a blinding explosion. The Dauntless reeled as the shockwave hit, its systems flickering. "We're not out yet," Ward muttered, sweat dripping from his brow. "Get me another lock." The backup missiles were armed, but the Dauntless had sustained heavy damage. Ward's co-pilot, Lieutenant Zara Menendez, looked at him grimly. "We've got one shot left. Make it count." The remaining Vraxian forces surged, determined to protect their command center. Fighters swarmed the Dauntless, their weapons tearing into its hull. Ward pushed the engines to their limit, the ship groaning in protest. "Hold together, just a little longer," he whispered. On the ground, Vega and her team reached the heart of the Vrax command center. Fighting through waves of enemies, they planted charges on critical infrastructure. As they set the final charge, Vega glanced skyward, watching as the Dauntless hurtled toward the enemy's stronghold. Her heart swelled with pride and fear as she realized the pivotal role they played in humanity's survival. "Ward, now or never," Malik's voice crackled over the comms. The Dauntless unleashed its final warhead, its trajectory true. The projectile pierced the Vrax defenses, detonating deep within their command center. The explosion was cataclysmic, a supernova of light and energy that consumed the enemy stronghold. The ground quaked, and the remaining Vraxian ships faltered, their coordination shattered. "They're retreating," someone shouted. But Ward knew the battle wasn't over. "Pursue them," he ordered. "We don't stop until they're gone for good." The Vraxian fleet, crippled and leaderless, began to retreat. Humanity pursued them, refusing to allow the invaders any respite. Over the next decade, humanity transformed from a fractured species into an interstellar force to be reckoned with. Colonies were established on Mars and beyond, serving as both sanctuaries and forward bases. The Artemis fleet, named in honor of the weapon that turned the tide, became the vanguard of Earth's newfound might. Education systems flourished, focusing on spacefaring technology and diplomacy, preparing the next generation for an age among the stars. Humanity's message to the galaxy was clear. Earth was no longer a vulnerable backwater. Any who dared to challenge them would face the same fate as the Vrax. Years later, General Malik's words were immortalized on a monument erected in the ruins of Earth's first city to fall. It read, "We are humanity. We endure. We innovate. And we conquer. Let this stand as a testament to our resilience and a warning to any who would threaten us." The stars remembered the consequences of the Vraxian assault, for humanity ensured they would never be forgotten. As the Martian dust settled and Ward returned to Earth, the tension between the colonies and the home planet grew ever more palpable. The word had spread like wildfire through human space. Mars, long a symbol of human survival and independence, was now on the brink of revolt. And it was not just Mars. The other colonies, on Europa, Ganymede, and Titan, had all begun to question the overarching power of Earth. They had been born of necessity during the Vraxian invasion, but now, with peace seemingly within reach, they had begun to wonder if Earth's dominance was truly what was best for them. General Adrienne Malik, once the undisputed leader of the Coalition of Human Survival, now found herself at the helm of an Earth that was struggling to hold together. As leader of the Earth Defense Union, EDU, she had navigated humanity through the darkest days of the Vraxian attack, but now, she was faced with the monumental task of keeping humanity united when the very forces that had kept them together, fear, desperation, and a common enemy, were gone. In the wake of the rebellion on Mars, Malik's council convened to discuss a solution. The room was filled with the brightest minds of the EDU, but the mood was tense. Ward, though recently returned from Mars, was already a focal point of debate. "We cannot ignore the reality of this situation," Malik said, her voice steady but tired. "The colonies are no longer the docile satellites of Earth. They've grown. They're strong. They're proud. General, we've built them into what they are," said General Samuel Tarkov, a grizzled veteran of the Vraxian War, his expression grim. "And now they're turning on us. The moment we let them go, they'll be lost to us." Malik shook her head. "It's not about letting them go, Samuel. It's about something far more important. Unity. We can't afford to force them into submission. That's how wars are started." "I disagree," said Admiral Helena Graves, commander of Earth's fleet. "We fought too long and too hard to have it all slip through our fingers. The colonies are not ready for autonomy. They're too young, too divided. They need Earth's leadership to hold them together." Ward, who had remained silent until now, spoke up. His voice, once the rallying cry for the resistance, now carried a weight of disillusionment. "Admiral, you're wrong. I've seen the colonies. They're not children anymore. Mars has a fleet capable of defending itself, and Titan is no longer reliant on Earth for resources. The time for Earth's dominance is over. If we continue down this path, we'll only create another enemy out of our own people." The room went quiet as Malik considered Ward's words. The once mighty Earth, with its centuries-old tradition of leadership, was at a crossroads. Should it let go of its control over the colonies, or should it continue its assertion of power, regardless of the cost? In her mind, the Vrax had shown humanity what it could achieve when it worked together. Cooperation, not domination. "We need a new vision for humanity's future," Malik said, breaking the silence. "One where we are not a fractured, struggling species trying to hold on to power, but one where we lead through cooperation, not force. This war, this conflict between Earth and the colonies, it has to end." Her words were met with mixed reactions. Some nodded, their faces reflecting the hope they had for a new future, while others, like Admiral Graves, scowled, clearly unconvinced. Malik's position was delicate. Earth could not afford to lose the colonies, yet the consequences of maintaining control were too great. After a long silence, Tarkov spoke again. General, with all due respect, you're talking about a dream. The colonies, Mars especially, are not looking for cooperation. They're looking for freedom. What happens if they don't agree with your vision? What then? Malik stood, her eyes scanning the room. Then we will negotiate. We'll find a way to live with each other, or else we risk everything. On Mars, the situation was far more volatile. Vance Harrow, the charismatic leader who had once led the Martian resistance against the Vrax, had spent the last several months rallying the people. His message was simple. Earth no longer held the moral high ground. The very reason the colonies had been founded was now being used as an excuse to control them. Harrow's popularity among the Martian settlers was undeniable. He was no longer just a hero. He was a symbol of the independence that many of the colonists had long yearned for. His words had struck a chord among the younger generations, who had never known Earth's rule except through the lens of military might and distant bureaucracy. I ask you, fellow Martians, Harrow had said during a rally broadcasted to the entire colony, do we want to be subjects to Earth forever? Are we to remain pawns in their game of control? We've built this world from the ground up, fought the invaders off with our own blood, sweat, and tears. Earth didn't help us then, and they sure as hell won't help us now. It's time for us to rise up, to be free. The crowd roared in agreement. This was the speech that had ignited the revolution. While Harrow was quick to claim that his goal was not to wage war against Earth, his rhetoric made it clear that Martian independence was the only acceptable outcome. A small but significant group of Martian military officers, many former members of the resistance, had pledged their allegiance to Harrow. They had secretly begun stockpiling weapons, ships, and resources, preparing for a potential conflict. Captain Elias Ward knew that the stakes had become even higher. Though he had no intention of seeing the colonies fall into war, he understood that the fires of rebellion burned brightly on Mars, and his role in defusing it was critical. He was Earth's ambassador to the colonies now, and if anyone could find a way to keep the peace, it was him. He met with Harrow several times, trying to reason with him, to find common ground. However, each meeting ended in frustration. Harrow's belief in Martian independence was unwavering, and he was growing increasingly disillusioned with the EDU's attempts to pacify the colonies. He saw Ward as an emissary of the very system that had abandoned them during the Vraxian invasion. You were once one of us, Elias, Harrow would say bitterly, his voice tinged with disdain. But you've become a tool of Earth's oppression. You don't see it, do you? You're helping them maintain control. It's time to choose, Elias. Earth or Mars. You can't have both. Ward felt the weight of Harrow's words, but he knew that if he could not prevent a war between Earth and Mars, the long-term survival of humanity would be at risk. In the middle of the conflict, the Vraxian remnants were regrouping, and new threats, possibly more dangerous than the Vrax, lurked in the shadows of the galaxy. Humanity needed to be unified, or it would be destroyed. In the months that followed, General Malik began to implement a diplomatic strategy she had been developing for some time. Her advisors called it a gamble, allowing the colonies to have a larger voice in Earth's affairs without severing ties completely. It was a difficult pill to swallow, especially for Earth's military leadership, but Malik knew that if the colonies felt heard, if they could have a hand in shaping the future, then they would be less likely to fracture. Ward was sent back to Mars one last time. His mission was clear. He was to convince Harrow that independence was not the answer, that humanity's true strength lay in unity, and that together, they could create a future that didn't rely on Earth's dominance. On Mars, tensions had reached a boiling point. Earth's fleet had been positioned in orbit, preparing for the worst-case scenario. Ward arrived with a sense of foreboding, knowing that any misstep could ignite a war that humanity could not afford. Harrow met him at the gates of New Dawn. the sprawling Martian capital, his face hard and resolute. "You've come back," Harrow said coldly, "but I can see it in your eyes, Elias. You're here to sell me another lie." "I'm not here to lie to you, Vance," Ward replied, his voice steady but filled with urgency. "I'm here to tell you the truth. If we go to war now, we will destroy everything we've built. The Vrax are not gone. We have no idea what threats are out there. But if we fight each other now, we will leave ourselves vulnerable. Earth is not your enemy. We need to come together." Harrow laughed bitterly. "Together? You want me to believe that Earth is not the enemy? The same Earth that has never respected us? The same Earth that used us as pawns in their fight for survival?" Ward stepped forward, his voice soft but firm. "We've all lost something in this war, Vance. I know you've lost more than most. But what's left after the fighting ends? The Vrax are gone, yes, but they won't be the last threat we face. If we split apart, we'll be easy prey for anyone who comes next." For a moment, there was silence. Harrow's face softened, just for a moment, as if the weight of Ward's words had begun to break through the wall he had built. But just as quickly, his resolve returned. "You're asking too much, Elias," Harrow said, his voice quiet but resolute. "I've made my choice." As the diplomatic talks on Mars teetered on the brink of collapse, the fate of humanity hung in the balance. Would Earth and the colonies be able to forge a new path, one based on mutual respect and cooperation? Or would the wounds of the past tear them apart forever? Only time would tell. The stars above, once a symbol of humanity's potential, now seemed a silent witness to the struggles of a fractured species. Would humanity conquer its divisions, or would it succumb to the same forces of discord that had plagued it for millennia? The answer lay in the choices of its leaders and the resilience of its people.